Welcome to Devan Alethia TV. My name is Devan. Just so you know, you should definitely hit subscribe and the like button because you're probably gonna like this story. Just saying. If you want more content from me regarding hauntings and makeup, definitely subscribe. We will be doing a lot of these. Just so you know, I am heavily inspired by Robert Welsh, Bailey Sarian, Jamie French, just to name a few. So obviously these aren't the only videos that exist, okay? I just am fascinated with this stuff, so I wanted to start doing it myself. Today we're going to talk about a haunting in Connecticut. So a lot of us have seen the movies. Actually, one of my favorite horror movies, I guess it would be a paranormal horror. So I went and researched the actual events. In 1986, the Snedeker family, Carmen, Alan, and their 3 sons, daughter, and 2 nieces moved into a house in Southington, Connecticut due to their eldest son's diagnosis of cancer in the neck. It was diagnosed as Hodgkin's, as far as I can tell, and his name is Matt in the story of the movie. But I keep finding different names, and actually Carmen in the documentary is so weird, but she said a few different names and I'm not really sure. I'm a little confused. So I'm gonna guess that his name is actually Philip, but we'll just call him Matt, okay, for video purposes. So that is what's going on. So they've been taking long trips because he got diagnosed with cancer over to a hospital that meets his needs. And they cannot afford financially or for his physical well-being. He just can't take it. The rides are too much. They decided that they would move into a new home, okay? Now they did only have a very low budget, and holy cow, that is the wrong shade for me. This is the first time that I've used this foundation. Oh Lord. But anyway, they did find a place near the hospital in the town, and it was surprisingly affordable. They were shocked but excited. So Carmen immediately said yes, signed the lease, started the process to get her family moved over because the house was so nice and large and inexpensive. So she snatched up that deal while she could.
So I was having trouble finding a place that would rent to 4 children. I had passed an old colonial with a for rent sign. Well, I stopped and I went upstairs and looked around, and it was a very nice house. I was impressed. I didn't think there was any way I could afford it. And I contacted the landlord, and it was affordable. He agreed to rent to me, and I was ecstatic. And we went home and got prepared to move.
And so she was there during the whole time, so Monday through Sunday, but her husband was still at their old house. So he was at their actual owned house. They were just renting this place while their son was recovering from cancer and getting treatments for his Hodgkin's, okay? So they were just renting this place, and then the husband was having to work out of town. It looks like the mom had a full-time job in Connecticut, which was good. So she got a job, I think, allegedly, in Connecticut. And the husband, though, kept his job and stayed there, and then just visited on weekends ultimately while this was going on. So yeah, apparently there are mixed encounters with the paranormal activity, because the eldest, the one that was getting treated for cancer, Matt, he heard a voice apparently from the get-go coming from the basement, just calling his name, which creeped him out pretty bad. But immediately he started hearing things, especially his name, at night, and especially from the basement, which he did select that as his room apparently. So, and that's where most of the bodies were prepared for their funerals, so it is a little cryptic that he decided to go down there and select that to be his room. But yeah, so he immediately apparently started hearing and seeing dark figures, stuff like that. There's actually even mixed accounts on whether they knew it was a funeral home right away, because the mom says that they did not know. But then you see, I will show a couple of clips here, but ultimately you see her saying that they did see the blood pits and the casket poles immediately upon arrival. And then in a different clip, she says that she did not see that until later, and that they were not aware that it used to be a funeral home until way after they started living there. They lived there for 2 years. But they noticed the blood pit, the tombstones, and the casket pole at some point, who knows when, because it's all mixed. But here's the clip right here.
When I first came in the house, my brother was showing me some of the weird things, like the room where they made the headstones and the footstones and the body lifts, and that's kind of how we were putting things together, that it was a funeral home.
When we first discovered it was a funeral home, I went to the landlord and I discussed it with him. We would have lost the money we put down for deposit in the first month's rent.
The Snedeker's
and you'll
house.
find out.
You should have cleaned your binoculars.
There is the sign that says Hallahan Funeral Home. This is a dated newspaper picture.
Ma'am,
It
I
was
hate
in
to tell you, but it
gold
was
on
covered
black
up
with a light over it.
by plywood when I lived in that house and when
right.
I looked at it.
That is
Not when you
correct.
got there. It was
Yes,
not covered
it
up till after
was.
it all started.
It
No,
was
wrong.
not.
So I did turn out my light. Hope that helps, guys. I know the lighting's a little wonky. But anyway, the children first encountered the spirits and the parents did not believe them, allegedly. And I say allegedly because I'm not sure myself. And so they thought the eldest needed help, and he was ultimately instigating the behavior of the other children. So they believed that basically he was just making it up, or was seeing things because of the cancer treatments affecting his health. And so they just thought that the children went along with his story, and so they didn't believe him, and they sent him to a mental hospital to get treatment. And right before he left, he said, "Mom, do not leave me." And he said that they were in trouble. If he left, it would get worse. And allegedly, after, it did get worse. And the mother was passing out abruptly, and apparently she was seeing negative beings while she was passed out and technically possessed. And also, her husband and herself and one of her nieces, said that they were raped by a ghost. And I will insert the clip here to the interview that states this.
At that point, I realized something was going on. I grabbed her, ran into what used to be the chapel to use the phone.
At night when you were in bed, in order to fully understand, we want you to show us what happened. Music like this. What happened next?
Well, Sally, the music would wake me up at night. I'd be sound asleep. I would hear the music playing, and I would say to myself, what is that? 5 or 10 minutes and listen to it. Along with the music, I could hear 3 or 4 voices.
He thought someone was in the house when all of this was going on, and
I used to get up every night, go down the stairs. First couple times I would just go down and start looking, but I started bringing a baseball bat with me. I started going through the boys' room, through the coffin room area where the chain body
Now,
lift was.
no one is playing.
Where I got so afraid when I was going down there, I started bringing a gun with me. And one night I woke Carmen up. I said, Carmen, I said, I got to stop doing this. I'm afraid I'm going to shoot one of our children.
Wow.
He was really afraid that one of the kids would be standing up in the room when he'd go around the corner, and he would fire because he was so frightened himself. And it only happened to us not at the same. Yeah, we were never awake at the same time. But the bed would begin to vibrate, and it would be a gentle vibration at first, and it got worse and worse. There were other things that happened. The bed, as Kelly said, had a pulse and a heartbeat.
Like a heartbeat, yeah.
And when you were in your bed, it would come and lift the covers and tug at them.
But there was a
and pull at
pulse
them.
and a heartbeat in the bed.
In the bed, and you could feel it. Someone else could go up and touch it and feel it. People that had not lived in the house. And we had this thing that would walk around the bed. It had really small feet, like a cat. We didn't have a cat. It would walk around the bed, and if it sat down, it would be as an adult male sitting, the impression of the bed.
The feet were light, but the weight of what happened.
The feet
on the
were
bed.
about the size of this, a cat's feet.
Can you share it with us?
Yes. One night we were lying in bed. Carmen had already had fallen asleep. I felt this strange sensation coming over my body. It started at my feet and started climbing up through my body. Before I had a chance to reach over to Carmen to tell her something was wrong, I was froze. I couldn't move. And then I felt this stinging penetration in my anal area.
And then there's one more thing I might add. Apparently the father did not believe the children until this one incident where a robot toy flung across the room. They screamed. He came in with his gun, which apparently he came in with his gun a lot. But they screamed because the toy had moved by itself and broke, and the father witnessed that. And then he started to believe what was going on. Now, their story has been questioned because of inconsistency in the story. There's even a book that someone they knew, possibly someone involved in the ghost investigation, I cannot remember properly, but someone involved with them wrote a book and they signed it, but didn't agree with it entirely, which I don't know why you would sign a book that you didn't agree with, because you don't have to sign the rights over. But someone wrote a book and included their opinions about inconsistencies, and that their story kept changing, and that they basically didn't believe that that was happening, and that the son was using. And Carmen has denied all of that and does not agree with the book entirely. So I'm really not sure why she signed it over. But anyway, when the paranormal investigators did get involved initially, to get back on track here, they did witness apparently a voice, one of the investigators, that said, why did they do this to us, or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but they're speaking of necrophilia and necromancy that is accusatory but not confirmed. Okay, so we don't actually know if this is something that was happening at the funeral home or not, but if you see the movie, they do kind of insinuate that. So that is part of the movie, and apparently that was talked about a bit with the investigators or something. But so anyway, the Warrens, I guess they investigated Amityville Horror and everything. They're real big paranormal investigators. They investigated their house and they suggested that the public be involved because the church was not readily available, not getting involved. So a way to really high gear the church's involvement would be becoming public on like national television and stuff like that. So they suggested them coming out to the public. So anyway, the family did become public and they were highly scrutinized for that decision. Their children's friends basically disowned them because the parents of their friends said they're crazy, so we're not hanging out with them. So basically everyone in their life disowned them when they came out to the public about their haunting problem in their home. And so that was a big deal to them. They felt really bad because, you know, the whole situation that they were in with the cancer and stuff was bad enough, and then their kids were losing their friends, which was even worse. So that's what happened when they came out in public. And also people did question, because it had taken 2 years to actually address the issue, the stories are just off. A couple of them are a little too much for me personally to actually believe in just the way it was stated too. You'll get what I'm saying if you have watched the clips. You definitely understand. So there might be a couple of reasons, unfortunately, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, it does seem a little off to me personally. You can definitely voice your opinion below. Obviously, it's an opinion, so we're allowed to have them. So yeah, allegedly after the publicity was being put out there, basically, they had said allegedly that the church agreed to perform an exorcism in the home, although they did ask to be anonymous, which most people do find fishy in this circumstance because they just, you know, why would they want to be anonymous? It just seems like a cover-up, and normally you wouldn't say that, but if you look at the footage that I'm showing you, you will definitely question it yourself. Like when I watched the first video, and I will link all my sources below, when I watched the first video, I was all gung-ho believing everything what was going on, and then I'm glad that I pulled out additional sources because I definitely am a skeptic. So I will get to that in just a moment here. So yeah, after all the evidence, I definitely am a skeptic. I believe that the trauma of, you know, her son, Carmen's son, having cancer and going through all that, and she may have even needed help with the bills, you know. So I believe that she did this for publicity because she was hurting for money. Can you imagine how expensive that is to go through chemo? I'm not judging on that aspect. I just, you know, by what I've heard, it just seems to me to be so far-fetched. And the stories, you know, when police do investigations, the stories add up. They find suspects when the case doesn't add up. Not saying that they're, you know, criminals or anything, but when things don't add up, it is a surefire sign that someone's not telling the whole truth, you know? So I don't know, what do you think based on the evidence? What do you think happened? Do you think it's the truth? Do you think that it was made up for financial reasons or for just trauma and things getting confusing because of trauma? Or do you think that all of this stuff really happened? I am really curious to find out. The movie is a bit different than the actual story by the description, so I am definitely glad that I investigated this with you guys today, and I hope you enjoyed. Again, my name is Devan, and I hope you subscribe and like the video and come along this journey with me on my channel.